If you're planning to jump into a big data project, you already know things can get complicated and fast. So today, we're going to cut through all that complexity with 10 essential best practices. This isn't just theory, okay? This is a practical, step-by-step framework you can use to build successful projects right from the start.
And hey, a special welcome to all the computer science students joining us from Nexus. We're really glad you're here. The whole point of this explainer is to bridge that gap between what you learn in the classroom and how it all plays out in the real world of big data.
So we're going to zoom out a little bit from the code itself. We're going to focus on the strategic thinking that really separates a project that flies from one that fails. By the end, you'll have a repeatable 4-phase framework that you can literally apply to manage any big data project you come across. All right, so here's our roadmap. We're going to walk through 4 distinct phases: strategy and planning, then data discovery, followed by implementation and governance, and we'll wrap up with analysis and refinement. So let's dive right into phase 1.
First up, phase 1, strategy and planning. And honestly, this is probably the most critical stage of them all. All the strategic work you do before a single line of code is written is what's going to save you from major headaches down the road. It's all about building a rock-solid foundation.
Okay, so this phase really boils down to 3 core practices. You can think of it as the why, the what, and the where. The why is your business goal, the what is the technology you'll use, and the where is your delivery model. Let's break each one down.
First things first, you have to ground everything in the business why. This can't just be some siloed tech project. The best results always come when you bring business leaders into the conversation from day one. They're the ones who can actually tell you, hey, here's the information we really need to make smarter decisions.
Next up, you've got to treat your technology choice as a strategic decision. You know, is your data structured and clean? A traditional relational database might be perfect. But what if you're wrangling messy, unstructured data from social media? Well, then you'll need something like a NoSQL solution. There's no one-size-fits-all answer here. The key is always picking the right tool for that specific job. The third big choice is about delivery. Are you going on-premise or to the cloud? You know, it used to be a given that these massive data sets had to live in your own data center, but cloud computing has completely changed the game. It offers unbelievable flexibility and scalability with these pay-as-you-go models that are often way more efficient. Okay, once your strategy is locked in, we move into phase 2, data discovery. This is all about figuring out what raw materials you're actually working with. It's about knowing the data you have and, just as critically, knowing the data you wish you had. Now, this phase has 2 parts, and they're both essential. First, you audit your existing data. That gives you your baseline and often uncovers quality issues right away. Then, you get creative and start thinking about what's missing. That second part, looking for the gaps, is where the real opportunities for innovation are usually hiding. Think of this discovery process like you're creating a map of your entire data universe. As you start charting it out, you're going to find gaps, you'll spot areas with duplicate data, and you might even realize how much you depend on third-party sources that maybe aren't so reliable. This map is absolutely essential for everything that comes next. So, you know what data you have. Great. But the most powerful question you can possibly ask is this one right here. What's missing? Answering this question is how you go from just managing information to true innovation. It's about letting yourself imagine what would be possible if you had the perfect data set. And this question, it's pure gold for brainstorming. By taking constraints like cost and speed off the table for a minute, you free people up to think bigger. You uncover what data would be genuinely transformative. And the cool part is, a lot of those wild ideas are way more achievable today than you might think. So now we are ready for phase 3, implementation and governance. We've got our strategy, we understand our data, now it's time to build. But, and this is a big but, it has to be done responsibly. That means clear rules for security, for quality, and for management. This phase is built on 3 pillars that are totally interconnected. You have to plan for security from the very start, you establish governance to set the rules of the road, and you assign data stewards to make sure someone is actually responsible for the data. You absolutely need all 3 for a stable system. Look, security cannot be an afterthought. It just can't. It has to be baked into the design from day one. And this means using techniques like data anonymization to strip out any personally identifiable info, and tokenization, which swaps sensitive data with random aliases, making it totally useless to anyone who shouldn't see it. So, if security is about protection, you can think of data governance as setting the rules of the game. It's the whole framework that defines how data is managed and maintained to ensure that everyone, and I mean everyone, is working from a single, reliable version of the truth. Without it, you just get chaos. And that brings us to the human side of all this, data stewardship. This is simply about assigning responsibility. It means a specific person or a specific team is accountable for the quality and integrity of a data set. This creates clear ownership, and it makes sure data is treated like the incredibly valuable asset it is. Finally, we've made it to phase 4, analysis and refinement. The system is built, the data is flowing. This is the ongoing part where we actually start pulling value out, learning from what we find, and constantly improving the system over time. You have to think of this phase as a continuous loop with two sides. On one side, you're actively using the data, finding patterns, testing assumptions. And on the other side, you're managing the performance and the health of the system itself. You can't get long-term value unless you're doing both. And it really is a continuous cycle that just feeds on itself. You find a cool pattern, and boom, that can spark a whole new investigation. You test your assumptions against the new data coming in, and maybe you challenge some old beliefs. And all the while, you are actively managing the infrastructure's performance, because unmanaged data can turn from a huge asset into a huge liability really fast. So that brings us through all 4 phases. Let's pull it all together now and just take a quick look back at the complete project lifecycle. This framework really gives you a powerful way to think about any big data project from beginning to end. Here it is in a nutshell. Phase 1, strategy first, not tech. Phase 2, figure out what data you have and dream about the data you need. Phase 3, build it responsibly with security, governance, and stewardship. And Phase 4, make analysis and refinement a never-ending cycle. And in our next chapter, we're going to share 10 awesome resources to help you learn even more. And I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. Of all the practices we've talked about, from defining business goals all the way to managing performance, which one do you think gets skipped or overlooked the most in the real world? And maybe more importantly, what's the ultimate price a team pays for that mistake?